any civilization or culture, especially the ones that have been around for thousands of years, would have mythologies and stories that would cover almost everything in the universe. But how much of that can we take as indicators of real practices or real belief systems that the people at the time believed in? Then there are some of these people who are so desperate for justification for their crazy ideologies or ideas, and they try to nitpick and take certain very specific events or mythological stories out of the huge tradition. I had already made a video on how the LGBTQ movement or the gender identity movement tries to nitpick events from ancient history, and I had taken instances from ancient Greece, Polynesia, Native America, ancient India, and so on. And in this video we will specifically look at the examples taken from ancient Greece. So let's start with Achilles. I took the screenshot from popular LGBTQ activist site, and the description they have given is quite self-explanatory. Homer never explicitly states a gay relationship between Achilles and sidekick Patroclus. Many scholars read a romantic connection between the two, as only Patroclus ever drew out a compassionate side to the famously arrogant warrior. Patroclus' death at the hands of Trojan prince Hector sent Achilles into a rage in which he killed Hector and dragged his body around Troy. So basically, you had a very close friend, you are a man first of all, and a warrior, and you had a very close friend, and he was killed at the hands of your enemy, and you go into a rage and kill that enemy and take revenge upon him, which is an indication of a gay relationship. I'm sure I don't have to explain more about that. Zeus and Ganymede is another case. The great god Zeus, one time when he was on earth, I think, he he came across a very beautiful and handsome young man, and we don't know how young he really was. God Zeus was so really taken with his beauty, and he took him to Olympus. The name of that boy or that young man is Ganymede, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and he went to Olympus to serve as Zeus's cupbearer. The same problem exists with this mythology, because the earlier versions of this myth doesn't say any non-Platonic relationships between the god and the cupbearer. In the Iliad, it is said that Tros was the lord of Trojans and he had 3 sons, of which Ganymede is the youngest and very beautiful and gorgeous. The gods caught him away to themselves to be Zeus's wine pourer for the sake of his beauty, so he might be among the immortals. From 6th century BCE, the story began to change or evolve to add the same-sex relationship or the romantic undertones in the relationship between Zeus and Ganymede. And it's in the time of Renaissance that the age of Ganymede goes really down to becoming a teenager or even a child, not before. Now there is also another interpretation where Zeus or gods represent a much prosperous and a much heavenly life, or some kind of emancipation, and most people don't get that kind of life. So it's like the Cinderella version of Greek mythology. That is another interpretation of this. And to be fair, all these interpretations can be seen as valid, because that's how history or interpretative history goes in modern time. Taking those interpretations as the absolute truth or proof of anything seems too far-fetched. Dionysus is an illegitimate son of Zues, and Hera Zeus's wife was quite jealous and envious of Dionysus, so she tried to kill him in the womb itself, but Zeus did not want the child to die, so he gave him and the like. Now Dionysus is the god of wine, of joy, of pleasure, of partying and all, and he is often, and he has a cult of his own which spans across the world, and he is associated with the LGBTQ rights. He is also called the god of transgenders because as a girl he wore girls' clothes at some point. I could not get a lot of information on that because, again, the myth and the history of Dionysus is kind of shady and kind of everywhere, because he dressed as a girl at some point in the mythological chronology of this mythological character. He is now dubbed the god of transgenders. Once again, I think that's again too far-stretched. There is the famous Narcissus, who was obviously obsessed with his own figure and he fell in love with himself. And then there was this other guy, his name was Anemias, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and he was quite in love with or quite smitten by Narcissus, but Narcissus left him because of who he was. Anemias, desperately depressed over the rejection, killed himself. Then there is obviously Hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite is the combination of two gods, Hermes and Aphrodite. That being is considered as the god of intersex people. Hermaphroditus is a god and appears at times among men, and that he is born with a physical body which is a combination that of a man and that of a woman, and that he has a body which is beautiful and delicate like that of a woman, but has masculine quality and vigor of a man. But there are those who declare such creatures of two sexes as monstrosities, coming rarely into the world, as they are sometimes associated with evil and sometimes associated with good. You can see a lot more examples of these kinds of tales that the gender identity movement especially takes to prove or to show you that this could have meant that gender was always non-binary from ancient times. The philosophers and thinkers and writers of the later Greek period are often supportive and dismissive of transgender or LGBTQ rights. Plato, though he initially supports and extols same-sex relationships as a sign of freedom and all, in a later period he rejects it and says and blames the Cretans for inventing same-sex relationships and justifying the practice through the myth of Ganymede. In that argument, he says that same-sex relationships are signs of slavery to pleasure. Basically means that we really can't take these instances and these very weak mythological precedents as evidence for any kind of recognition of LGBTQ people or of LGBTQ rights. Myths are wild interpretations of the mundane, and most of these myths, especially ancient myths, are quite ambiguous. Be that as may, the concepts of masculinity and femininity is quite demarcated or quite clear in the Greek civilization, and they are very strict about the division of labor, about the classification of human species based on gender, and they really did contribute a lot to a patriarchal system of society. So all of these are in complete opposition to the gender identity theory that the LGBTQ movement now follows, where masculine and feminine division of human species is kind of absurd and outdated, and we have to focus more on being non-binary. So what is the point of you taking from such a civilization that stands in direct opposition to your basic tenet? What do you think about it? Please tell me in the comment section. There is a big storm coming, so I have to sign off now, and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Thank you and have a great time. I've published my first book, a novel named Life in a Ziploc Bag. It's the story of 4 kids living in a city with their unique life experiences. They are connected by the chaos in their lives, which are fueled by drugs, abuse and isolation. I don't want to give it all away right here. You can check it out on Amazon or Flipkart. It's also available for direct buying. All these links are given in the description. If you are interested, please go and check it out and grab your copy right now. Thank you.